Hello, welcome to Manabil. This is hopefully, I'm almost sure that this is going to be the last part of this deconstruction of this particular video called by Bernardokastrup and the Essentia Foundation called The New Worldview to Explain It All, Q&A with BK, right? And in this part, we are dealing with the last two, or I am dealing, right? I don't like the idea of the we, but you and me, right? The last two, which is how to derive an ethics from analytic idealism. And it is our obligation to pass moral judgment upon nature. And it's like, holy shit, these people are crazy, right? First of all, before we dive into it, right? You cannot derive an ethics from analytic idealism because they are implying that it's enough to have some metaphysics. And I've got metaphysics now, so I can sort of extract some morality from a metaphysics. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Then you are violating Hume's is-ought gap by doing it in your metaphysical cloud castle realm, right? You're sitting in your abstract cloud castle and looking at how this story is supposed to unfold, and then you're making a moral judgment about that. That is a dysfunctional, stupid, incorrect, philosophically incorrect way of doing it. Because what they're going to point out, I have a metaphysics, I'm deriving ethics from it, and now I'm going to apply it to my experience. And I'm going to boss people around based on the story I'm telling myself about my metaphysics, or the metaphysical realm, right? It's obviously fucking crazy, right? There's another point that, depending on how you understand what is said here, how to derive ethics from analytic idealism, they could be deriving it also through epistemology, which would be correct. But they're not saying that. The only way you can understand this out of the gate is you can extract it directly, some kind of ethics directly from a metaphysics, right? Otherwise, they're trying to fool you, at least, right? You have to settle on ontology and metaphysics completely and utterly before you even dare to venture into coming up with an idea or a clean-cut definition of knowledge based on epistemology, which is a set of philosophy that you do after you have settled ontology/metaphysics completely. Then you can start to do some philosophy about what you mean by knowledge. And when you define knowledge, that's the point when you can start to do some ethics, which is another separate category of philosophy, right? And that should condense into a moral principle that's my idea how to do it, right? All your ethics is condensed into some kind of principle or something like that, right? And let's call that a moral principle, whatever that result may be. It might depend on how you approach your philosophy, whether or not you would call it a principle or not. But something is condensed into, this is how I'm going to use ethics, right? And I'm going to moralize myself using this kind of whatever idea, right? I would call that a moral principle. That's what it has been called through the ages, right? Now, can you derive an ethics from an analytic idealism? No, ethics is the philosophy you do to get to the moral principle. You have to get through epistemology first before you do ethics. Because when you are doing ethics, you are trying to apply it to your actions in reality. Reality being that direct experience that is empirical, right? Which is your qualia. And therefore it's a very, very good idea to have qualia as your reduction base, which is also what I find to be the correct reduction base when I do my ontology, right? My reduction within my ontology. So it all fits perfectly together. But, it will have to then appeal to everybody doing it themselves You can't sit there and be Jesus judging people, right? If you have to appeal to, you have to do the experience yourself and applying your own moral principle, right? And that's why they always circumvent knowledge and jump into moralization. Just like Hume pointed out, they are usually full of shit, these people, right? They haven't done the sufficient rigidity within the thinking that should be behind those moral judgments, right? Okay, enough of that. Let's just head right in and hear what Mr. Bernardo has to say.
Perspective, especially when we said about free will, what you said about it, and this also, that it doesn't care at that level in a sense, and still we as humans, we're ethical.
Speak for yourself, Hansiman, right? It's a good idea, and I keep reminding myself I should not say we, because it's sort of it's kind of manipulative, right? It's like saying one thing you can try to get used to think about is whenever people talk about their own experiences and it has maybe a slant towards something that might be considered negative, they frame it as a we or a you and something like that. When people, instead of saying, well, then I felt this, I felt the need to hit this person or whatever, and then they would say something like, and then you would feel like hitting a person. It's like lumping everybody else into their own feelings, right? It's sort of getting rid of responsibility for your own feelings. It's like, well, everybody feels like this. And then you would feel, everybody would. You would feel, meaning everybody will feel this way. I'm not alone. I'm not a weirdo, right? Everybody, right? Speak for yourself. Make a virtue out of speaking for yourself, right? You will be much better for it because it will train yourself to be responsible for your own thinking, right? Rather than saying, we are all in it together, right?
Beings, right? We want stories, and stories are about ethics and how then to inform our ethics from an idealist metaphysics.
Okay, so stories about ethics. So in the recent, this is just a tangent, right? I'm not, but in the recent, and it is sort of a bit of a concern to me, right? That the recent proclamation of the director of the next Star Wars movie, which would be the first movie in possibly the fourth trilogy of movies, right? Potentially at least, and they have hired the most, revolutionary, person of color, feminist, whatever, right? Who wants to make men feel, uncomfortable and so on, to direct the next. So, and a movie is a story, right? At least some part of it is a story. So it's about ethics then. Then the director has to apply their ethics to the movie. So they are going to make a movie that is purely about feminism and making men feel uncomfortable, right? So that is the ethics of. It's just, if it's everywhere, right? And but when you criticize, then they're going to say, okay, you criticize me because I am a woman, or because I have a color, or because I use my genitals in a different kind of way, or whatever, right? It's just these days, ethics is a political agenda, right? And there's also in the last 20 years or so, maybe even more, but at least the last 20 years, in this, since the turn of the millennium, right? Turn of the century. A lot of companies all of a sudden have come up with a 6-point ethics agenda, how they're supposed to function in the market. We are like this, and we are serving that, and we have this ethics of this, that, and the other, right? To me, that's a sign that the ordinary person hasn't been further removed from any idea of ethics ever. Because they would be provoked into saying, I am not here to extend some kind of ethics. I have my own ethics, thank you very much. I don't need the company I work for to tell me how to function, right? And then ethics is also being used in order to control people. That is usually what ethics has been used for. It has been, I am the one having the ethics, so now I can boss you around because I have the narrative of the ethics, right? Be careful. Be careful. Ethics is fucking dynamite, right?
I'm not an ethics philosopher. So
I know.
I know. Yes. Oh, yes. So, you're not an ethics philosopher. Okay. Okay. That should be a standalone statement, right?
We really should go after the people who have spent their lives thinking this through.
Okay, so this is a huge, huge problem, right? It's a monumental deal-breaking level of problem with his approach to philosophy, right? And I want to get this want to be very sure that I get this very well across. So, there are several categories of philosophy you need to go through in order to have a moral principle, right? You basically have to go through all the categories of philosophy you can possibly go through that is necessary in order to get there, right? So, first of all, you need to find your reduction base. You need to get to an ontology. You need to deal with that external world and potentially metaphysics. When you've done that, you can start on epistemology and get to a definition of knowledge. And if you want to live in a world where you talk to other people and maybe come to an agreement within a moral framework, you also need an idea of objectivity that you can possibly agree with somebody else on, right? Then you need to do some ethics in order to get to that moral principle. And there's a whole lot of shit that could go wrong on the way there, right? Not least Hume's scissor gap, which seems to be an impenetrable wall to get to a moral principle, right? At least it seems. I'm not saying it is. But there's a lot of people who are trying to deal with Hume and use all sorts of sophistry in order to penetrate that wall. I have never seen anybody doing anything that is remotely close to jumping the Hume scissor gap, right? Which basically says, and ultimately it says, in my opinion, okay, so you came up with some thinking, and therefore you think you can boss me around. Fuck you, man, right? I think that Hume didn't go deep enough with this, right? I think it's ultimately about you. Just because you came up with some harebrained thinking, no matter what that thinking is, it doesn't give you the right to boss me around. Right? It doesn't give you the right to boss me around. It's like, oh yeah, you over there, I have some thinking. Now I am going to boss you around. It's like the colonizers of the 18th and 19th century. Going to Africa and Asia, some Americas, and telling people, you are bad thinking, you should have another religion, you should have schools and churches and roads and trains and... Right? It's stupid. There is no thinking of any kind. Philosophy, woo-woo shit, religion, nothing that gives you the right to boss people around. You have to deal with this problem somehow, right? You have to deal with it. Otherwise, I don't give a shit about your ethics. Don't fucking boss me around unless you have solved this problem. So, at least he's honest about it. But then that honesty should he should be so skeptical about his own ego that he should then say immediately after, therefore I'm not going to give you any morality, any ethics of any kind, because I haven't done the thinking. Right? It should stop right there.
I can only contribute something out of my personal experience, which is not any better than what you can hear from your neighbor, if you know what I mean. I'm not specialized in the subject, but...
There's one point I forgot to mention. If you're doing philosophy, if you're a real philosopher, and this is the actually important part I forget to mention, you have to do all of it, right? If you are not concerned about all aspects of possible philosophy, at least all those that are necessary to get to a moral principle, if you're not concerned about all of them and how they fit together, you are a crazy manipulator, right? You are a pet subject kind of academic. It would be the same as, and I'm maybe a little hyperbole on this, right? But it's just like it's an incredible disadvantage for philosophy in general that there are all these academics with their fucking stupid pet subjects, right? It's like compartmentalizing the production of a car, right? That you take all those who make the motor, put them in one room, and then you take all those with the wheels, put them in one room, then you take all those with the interior, put them in one room, and they all have to come up with that part that ultimately, right, these 5 or 6 rooms of particular aspects of designing a car, they all have to come up with their part without talking to any of the others, right? And then afterwards, you would have to fit these parts together and expect to have a functional car, right? Of course it doesn't work. Of course it won't work, man, right? He's sitting there. The starting point is the motor, right? The engine, the operating system, which is the ontology / metaphysics, which is the ground floor of everything in your philosophy, right? And you're thinking, I have created a motor, right? I am not interested in wheels or interior or the chassis of the car or whatever, right? That's for somebody else. I'm only making motor, right? And he basically doesn't care whether or not it fits with any of the other parts, right? Because it's his pet subject. And it's the only thing he's interested in, right? There's a foundational problem in this approach to philosophy. You have to be a completist in order to have a functional philosophy. He doesn't really care whether it works. Obviously he doesn't, because he doesn't care where it follows into epistemology, or how it follows into any idea of objectivity, or how it follows into some kind of ethics. And at the same time, he probably is going to lecture you, according to the last question on the list there, it is our obligation to pass moral judgment upon nature. We have to see what they're actually dealing with, but it sounds like you're going to moralize based purely on the metaphysics, right? It really pisses me off, right? Because it's so prevalent, these academics, they have their stupid, well, it's not necessarily stupid, but they have the stupid approach to philosophy, which is, I have my pet subject. It's the only thing. And they can come up with more harebrained schemes about their philosophy than they would be able to if they had to fit it all together in a complete philosophy, right? It can stick in all sorts of weird directions because it's not going to have to fit with the rest of the car, right? You can have a freaky motor that is the size of, the Empire State Building and saying, this is my motor, right? I don't care about the rest, but this motor is functioning, yes. But you can make a fucking car out of it, right? So, you get my point, I hope.
I think one key factor is, one, We are not anomalies because we are.
We speak for yourself again, right? Your starting point is your own thinking, your own experience. You're talking to your dashboard now, right? So you're talking to your dashboard as a we. How does that work? What's the we? It's like there's something else that is the same as me, but you have your experience. That other dude you're talking about doesn't have your experience. You're the one having your experience. So you can make a we out of it. You can only say, I have this experience, right? There is no we, God damn it.
We identify with our conscious inner life, and we are told that nature is not conscious.
There's no we that told you have a metaphysics. What's the we? What is that which is telling you? The toldness, what is that? It's all your experience. You're looking at your dials on your dashboard now, talking to your dashboard, right? Even if I'm potentially sitting out here talking to you, I'm still a dial on your dashboard, right?
Nature is just physical in the sense of being something completely distinct from consciousness. So it feels like we are anomalies, like we don't belong here. We are ephemeral anomalies that come to an end very quickly and serve no good purpose whatsoever. Because you could have all structure.
But purpose, what is that? Is that a part of your ontology? I'm struggling to fit the idea of purpose into any kind of philosophy. I think that purpose is purely something that you have to fiddle around with, right? I can give you a philosophy of purpose. I can give you philosophy, and that's the end of it. The moral principle. Then you go and figure out what's your purpose, right? I guess you could say that's what he's trying to deal with. But he constantly says this we and the we and the we and the we, right? He wants to be a collectivist about it. He wants you to lump you into it as if you can't get away, right? I don't like that. I don't like that. Everybody who's doing philosophy should be concerned about saying, this is what I do. This is my thinking, right? I'm talking to my dashboard now. I don't know what is out there, right? Because my dashboard is not the external world. But all I have is this dashboard. When I create a voice or a book or something, it's something I understand through my dashboard, right? All of it is through my dashboard, to stay with this analogy, the dashboard analogy, right? So he's talking to his dashboard. It's all through the dashboard, right? According to his own standards. But he wants to jump out of that dashboard into his Rippleverse, his mind daddy, and say, my mind daddy has come up with something that I now had to inflict on my understanding on my dashboard. That is the circular argument. You can't do that, right? As I pointed out several times recently, right? So, yeah, let's head in.
Structure and function without experience. Experience has no causal powers under physicalism.
It's just, why don't you stick to the question here, right? It's like he's wandering off into... Stick to the question, how do you get to ethics with this metaphysics, right? Stay on track, stay on target, Luke, right?
It's just a byproduct and a transitory, ephemeral one. So it feels like we are anomalies. Under idealism, we are not. The world is of the same kind of that which you identify with, which is your conscious experience.
But it's like this sounds like an appeal to, oh, you should choose my metaphysics because it gives you your ability to find meaning in life. Then I can't help thinking it is confirmation bias. It is based on psychology. It is based on a need for somewhere to go and find some kind of meaning rather than rigid philosophy. I don't think you can philosophize yourself to meaning. It's not that I wouldn't like that to be it, right? But who's going to tell me, right? I can only give it to myself. I can't listen to my dashboard and say, dashboard, give me meaning, right? I have to come up with it myself. And what would it be? If there are colors and there are qualia, there are cognitions and various abstractions, right? if in any case it can be an abstraction, but it's not fundamental then, right? I'm abstracting meaning from my abstractions. So then the meaning of the other abstractions is my abstract understanding of my other abstractions into some kind of story. Maybe it's about a story about what you're supposed to do. Maybe the meaning thing is a lack of inner strength of some kind. I want my experiences, my phenomena to tell me what the hell to do, right? I can't come up with something myself. I have nothing to compare my actions to. I have nothing to compare my life to. I have to have something to compare it to find out whether or not it's a good life or not a good life, right? Well, you have to do that yourself. If you let other people tell you, you are elevating, you're both saying, I can't do it myself, but then elevating your ontology to be able to tell you. But your ontology is that which you're using to understand your phenomena, right? Or categorize your phenomena. So then the understanding of a meaning of things would be a circular argument again, right? It's just ripe with circular arguments when we're dealing with this level here, down here, right?
The world too is made of conscious experience, not your conscious experience. There is conscious experience out there in other people and in nature at large.
How the hell do you know? How the hell the fuck do you know? You don't. You have your dashboard, right? And then your fancy idea of what might be out there, which is responsible for your dashboard. So now he just, because he wants to feel good about it, he's just jumping into it without any clarification or any justification. Oh, there are experiences out there because I think it's necessary to say that, so I'm just going to say it. I have no fucking argument, right? He hasn't got any argument for this, right? And then when he has done this, then he could go and knock himself out in numerous abstractions in his, consciousness only ontology summary of 150 pages, right? Which is basically useless because he's jumping to a conclusion. He's then validating afterwards, but he can't make that jump, right?
Also conscious experience. It's something of the same nature of that which you are. So we belong here. We are home. That's
Oh, we are home. Oh, man. This is the mystic, right? This is the mystic answer to a very clear-cut question. How do you get ethics from this metaphysics of yours, right? He is trying to dilute it into all sorts of shit. He can just sit there and it's a red flag, right? He wants to say, I don't have an answer, but let me come up with some woo bullshit, right?
One ethical question. Another ethical question is the kinship between us all. Not only are you and me of the same kind, conscious humans.
You are not of the same kind. You are not of the... No. That's a category error. Be very, very, very strict on this. What he's talking about is his experience and his awareness, consciousness of his experiences. What he's pointing to is one of his experiences. One of his experiences cannot be the same as all of his experiences, right? One of his experiences is pointing to Hansiman, right? That's a qualia and a cognition. That can't be the same as the whole system of his ontology. So it's a category error. It's another one of these stupid errors he makes, right? He's still a physicalist. He's still a fucking physicalist. He's treating his experience as another physicalist. He's just calling everything mind. And then he ventures to talk about all sorts of categories, though he only have one thing called mind yet. It's all screwed, right? It's all fucked up. beyond recognition.
Are no two, because the core subjectivity in you is the core subjectivity in me. It's not like we have two identical core subjectivities. No, it's one dissociated core subjectivity doing you and the same core subjectivity doing me. The thing that looks out through our eyes is the same thing. The same thing that looks out through your eyes and the same thing that looks out through my eyes. We have two eyes. We can see that immediately. Close one eye and look at your finger. Now close the other eye and look at the same finger. It's different. Here I see this part of the finger. Here I see this part of the finger. It's not the same experience.
It's also divided by time, right? It's a changed scenario. So be careful with these arguments. I know where he's going, and that's possibly something to this, right? That the story is a combination of two eyes. But I know you could maybe dive into this, but what does it have to do with ethics, man? What does it have to do with ethics?
These are two different experiences, but both are me. It's just that when I have both my eyes open, my mentation coalesces the two experiences together in a unity. But it's not, what I'm going to say here is not true.
So are you saying that you have to make sure you have both eyes open if you want to make a moral judgment? If you close one eye, now you have to shut up. Don't boss me around. If you open your other eye before you boss me around. But what are you doing, right? This is basically taking a big fucking dump on the idea of epistemology and ethics, right? It's like that's for the little people. I don't do sort of low-level, low-character philosophy like epistemology and ethics. It's like I have my metaphysics. I am joining my big mind daddy in my cloud castles, right? I am Anton Ego. I don't just eat food, I love it, right? I don't just do metaphysics. I love it, right? I am not going to eat this sort of peasant food, right? Peasant philosophy like epistemology and peasant philosophy like ethics, right? I am sitting in my cloud castle. I am not doing anything with the peasantry, right?
But I will pretend that it's true because it makes my point. If you sever the corpus callosum that connects the two halves of your brain, you would not have...
Why the hell are you smiling, Hansi? Why are you not stopping? I'm saying, hey, we should be talking about ethics. The viewer asked about ethics, you moron, man, right?
Unified experience. Actually, you do, but pretend that it doesn't, because it makes my point. The difference between you and me on the one hand and my left and right eyes on the other is only that in the case of the two eyes, there is a meta level of cognition in which the two experiences are merged together. If there weren't this meta level of experience, if there weren't this junction, your left eye would think, I am Bernardo, and your right eye would think, I am Hans. That's exactly what's happening. Nature has many eyes.
Yeah.
It's looking out into the world through your eyes and through mine.
Yeah.
And we do not have access to that unifying experience because we are dissociated.
And bringing that to ethics, I'd say...
So it's actually Bernardo who's sitting here looking through one of my eyes. I'm is he trying to, unstabilize me or what? Make me, I'm possessed by Essentia Foundation. Like the old movie Inner Space, Martin Short and the guy running around in his bloodstream there, right? In his, UFO there, right? I'm possessed. I can hear voices. If you're really a serious philosopher, right? If you're actually a serious philosopher, you will consider this a big pile of bullshit answer to something as important as ethics. What kind of bullshit is this to shove in the face of somebody asking a very, very, very serious question about where is all this leading, right? They're basically saying, yeah, well, let's get back to reality here. When I go out and I see a tomato, can I just eat it? No, but if you look at one eye and another eye, and we're all in it together, and the one eye is Hansi and the other eye is me, and it's like, shut the fuck up, you stupid, crazy bastard, right? Oh, hang on.
Good, bad, good, bad, and it coalesces on a higher level. Is that a way to look at it?
What? Good, bad, one eye good, other eye bad. It's like good and bad everywhere. It's like we can't settle on anything, right? Oh, be fucking careful, man, right? They want to gaslight you into having no fucking clue about ethics. And put your guard down and let them run all over you, right? And, ass rape you with their weird philosophy.
I personally don't buy into, obviously what we call the good and what we call the bad are both parts of nature. But
What? They're both part of nature. What is nature? That's why I would like to have a very, very clear understanding about what you mean by nature. But you have clouded it in all these abstractions. So I have no touchy feeling or understanding of what you mean by nature. But if you're talking about nature, which I think you do as the external realm, the external part of your dissociation, then you are saying that it is outside and you can have a dashboard experience of morality. That is a violation of Hume, right? I'm not necessarily saying that Hume is, the last word on that in that case. But then please explain to me what dial is telling you about good and bad. I would very, very much like to know that. Because that's the fucking question of the ages, right? Don't allude to it without coming up with an answer.
to me, that doesn't translate into moral relativism, in saying that everything is equivalent.
Okay, so he's jumping in, but it's not necessarily moral relativism, right? He is just saying, well, I have a metaphysics. I'm just passing over, taking a big step over epistemology and going to allude to that I can experience morality. But it doesn't have to be relative. It's like, hang on, dude, right? You just passed over potentially, 5 years of rigid epistemology and rigid ethics, right? In your arrogant approach to philosophy, by thinking that your magical mind, daddy, can give all your answers. This is where I can get really, really, really pissed about these people, right? They're basically taking a big fucking dump in your face if you want to go and do rigid epistemology and rigid ethics, right? They're sitting there perched in their ivory tower, thinking they have this metaphysics to explain it all, right? The one new world view to explain it all, man, right? Ugh.
In some way, I don't think that. I think we should strongly oppose evil.
Speak for yourself. Speak for your fucking self, right?
And I think we are paying an. I think we should strongly oppose evil.
What is evil? Give me you just said that it's a part of nature, so you can have a dashboard experience of good and bad, and now you call it evil, which is a Christian approach, right? The good and evil, and the Christians are always in the good camp, right? They always say, okay, but that I don't like, so it must be not a part of me. It's something that is sort of in society and the devil and so on, right? These crazy fucking bastards, right? It also is switching the terms. Good and bad, where did that come from? He's never defined what he means by that. It's apparently a part of his dashboard. Would you mind telling me how you get to that, right? What color does it have? What sound does it have? What taste does it have? And so on. Please, Mr. Brainy Dude, Mr. One Worldview to rule them all, right?
And I think we are paying an enormous price today in 2023 because we have not strongly opposed evil before. So I'm not a moral relativist in that sense. I acknowledge good and evil are integral parts of nature, but I think
Of nature, so it's not a part of him. No, it's outside me. I am just neutral. You can't come and blame me for anything. I don't have it. It's out in nature, right? So it's a part of his mind daddy or what? So his mind daddy is both good and evil at the same time, and good and bad or whatever, right? Fuck off, man, right? What a load of arrogant nonsense, man, right? How dare you take this, arrogant academic dump on people who actually want to get some good epistemology and ethics. It's a fucking disgrace, man.
we carry the responsibility as the metacognitive part of nature to pass value judgments and say, this is functional and conducive to growth. And this is
this is conducive. You shouldn't do that over there. So now he wants to boss people around, right? Because he has some fancy ideas what is good and what is bad because of mind daddy, apparently, right? Just ignoring epistemology and ethics. It's just because mind daddy, therefore I'm going to boss you around, right? This is the new worldview, right? This is the one eye bossing you around, right? He wants to have all these ring wraiths of academics around him to go and hunt people down who doesn't have the right thing, right? Because he has apparently this magical eye that can see good and bad everywhere, apparently, right? He's paying attention, right? And you should too, otherwise you can get the fucking government up your ass, right? Fuck off, man.
functional. It should be stopped or bounded in some way.
From our perspective, right?
Hang on. Oh, it's always when people moralize, they go fucking mental, right?
As the metacognitive part of nature, to pass value judgments and say, this is functional and conducive to growth, and this is dysfunctional and should be stopped.
Should be stopped, right? Okay. Now, this is fucking hardcore, right? This is where he's saying dictatorship. He is fucking saying dictatorship, right? Because nobody can point to an external world, in my opinion, and say, good over there, bad over there, right? Yes, he might be alluding to some kind of rationalization that this might have this effect, and that might have that effect, and I don't like that effect, but I like that effect. But that's purely up to your subjective understanding of value judgment, right? Who are you to fucking judge me on my value propositions, right? Of value understandings. But you want to be the dictator who is in control of everything. And have your minions of soldiers going and stopping people. You cannot do this. I am Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, Franco, Mussolini. Choose your poison, right? Because I have the idea. I have the perfect idea for everyone. And if you don't follow along, you can go to the fucking gulags. Because you're destroying all our values, right?
Bounded in some way.
From our perspective, right? Because that you have to add then from the Yahweh, the mind at large perspective, it does not have that problem that we have. It does not have that problem of suffering because it...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? I don't know. I don't get that.
Is never stopped on its tracks when it faces an impossible obstacle. There's nothing beyond it. Yeah. Everything happens within it. But we, because we are these tiny dissociated segments of the mind of nature, we face these impossible obstacles all the time. So we are stopped in our tracks and we are forced to think about it self-reflectively, metacognitively. And metacognition is the enabler of value judgment. So I think insofar as we are the only metacognitive phenomena of nature that we know of, and we are, maybe non-human intelligences are also metacognitive, but they are not sitting on this table right now.
Yeah.
So as far as we can talk about, we are the only metacognitive manifestations of nature. That makes us the only manifestations of nature capable of value judgment. So I think passing value judgment is not only our capacity, but it's our responsibility.
Why do you need to pass it? Yeah, make your value judgment, but it's this passing thing. It's this bossing people around thing. Shut the fuck up, you little gnome. You little crazy bastard. Yes, go have your philosophy over in that corner. But that doesn't give you the fucking right. Have your value judgment, but don't fucking boss me around. Right? There is no appeal to agreement here. It's all about I passing judgment, right? And you have to be stopped. Do you have any fucking clue what you're saying? Mr. PhD, have you studied any history? Right? Do you have any idea how many people were killed by their own government in the 20th century? Alone? Just killed by their own government. It's not counting epidemics or wars or all things. It was just government killing their own for whatever stupid reason, which is basically no reason at all, right? 275 million people were killed by their own fucking government. I'm taking that kind of seriously. Looking back in the 20th century, I lived for 34 years in the 20th century, right? In the better part of it, happily, right? Looking back at that pile of corpses killed by their own masters, I don't like when people come and say to me, there's one ring to rule them all, right? And they have to be stopped because I have a value judgment. Fuck off you, man, right? It's a warning to everybody, this.
Ability, because there is no other game in town. I think we must pass value judgment and say, this is functioning okay, this I'm going to resist. That's okay.
Beautiful. I think
what happened in Israel.
Yes, because I'm perfect. There's no evil in me. I am on the good side, so I can pass judgment. But if I see on my dashboard something I don't like, it's because they're bad and they have to be stopped. Right? This is what all the crazy dictators out there want. They want a stupid little gnome like him who's afraid of his own shadow, right? To say, oh, wow, I like that. He can convince people that there needs to be a dictator like me who can... It's when there are revolutions everywhere, right? There are the crazy people who are actually doing the physical, kinetic version of the revolution. And then half a year, 1 year, 2 years later, the real stupid people take over, those who are really good at manipulating this. They sort of... It's the second step of the revolution, right? In the Russian Revolution, there were the revolutionaries, and then when Lenin died, then the new breed of revolutionaries came in who are even more crazy than the first ones, right? It's not the first iteration of the change that is a problem. It's the second or third iteration down the line when it's like, there was a revolution in Germany in 1918, right? 1918, 1919. And then they had there was a little of this and a little of that, and then the socialists take over, and then all of a sudden, Adolf Hitler, right? It's like, it's an unstoppable, what's it called? Sliding, there's a fallacy, right? Never mind. You are setting something in movement that then cannot be stopped, because all the psychopaths, all the crazy people, and all the useful idiots are going to coalesce into some monstrosity that because we didn't kill the Ring of Power, right? He wants a new Ring of Power. He wants to be Sauron, or the philosophical idea behind Sauron, right? And now we have to find a Frodo somewhere to have to go and bury that. Hope that in 2,000 years somebody loses the ring and we can go to Mordor with it through a lot of stress and toil and hardship, right? Fuck off you, right? No patience with it.
3 days ago is not okay. That must be resisted. What's happening in Ukraine is not okay. Must be resisted. What has been happening...
It's not... He's like sitting there like a god. I have all the information. I've never been to Ukraine, possibly, right? I don't even know the people who are involved in this. I've only seen on the news. And I'm supposed to like this and not supposed to like that. And now it's bad. Right? Virtue signaling bastard man, right?
Palestine for decades, that's
also not okay.
No. Must be resisted. It's just that what happened 3 days ago is not resistance. That's what I mean. So I think we are invested by nature with the responsibility to pass value judgments.
What is a Ukraine in your ontology? Right? Show me how Ukraine, as whatever it is, fits in your ontology, please. Show it to me. I've never seen anything like it explained in your... You're talking about ripples, right? So all of a sudden these narratives that have been there for apparently hundreds of years are apparently now all of a sudden a part of your philosophy. It's like your mind ripple, this mind castle of your mind daddy is a special kind of place you can go. But now you're sort of going into everyday, CNN news and stories about what is going on in the world politics and whatever, right? But in my afternoons, I sit in my armchair and go back into my cloud castle and feel good about myself.
And there is no implication between the acknowledgement that good and evil are all part of nature and then concluding that there is nothing we should do about it. No. I think, yes, they're both.
We should do... What's that? What's your fucking moral principle? What's your ethics? How did you... He's coming up with, we have to do something. That's not ethics. That's implying a moral principle. You can't talk to anybody or even yourself about what to do if you don't have a principle to work from. They asked about ethics. They didn't ask about what do I do about the Ukraine war or whatever it is, right? This guy is completely misguided about what he's doing, right? I have to stress this once again. He's a crazy fantast who thinks he's fucking his mind daddy's gift to the world, right? He has Jesus savior complexes of some kind and thinks he's so fucking smart, right? He has no clue what he's doing. He is extremely dangerous. He doesn't even know it. He thinks he's a fucking, a gift to humanity, right? That's why the Lord of the Rings is such a good analogy for understanding this. The Gandalf who says, I don't dare take the ring. I would want to do good. But through me, it would wield a power too terrible to imagine, right? He is a Gandalf, or he's somebody who's not realized. He is a third-rate Gandalf, right? Who thinks that he can grab the ring and tell everybody how to, right? He is Boromir, who wants to grab the ring and think he can change the world, right? The power of the ring will, through him, wield a power too terrible to imagine, right? That's why we can't let crazy people, psychopaths, and useful idiot have any kind of power. At the end, nobody has power except yourself. You have the power to do your philosophy, go all through all the steps I've talked about, get to a fucking moral principle that is yours. Tell me about it. Let me understand how you think. I would like to know. But it's your job. You do your philosophy. You do your moral principle. And you act according to your own fucking principle. If you can't do that, then don't come and lecture me about morality. Shut the fuck up and go back in your corner and you know, jerk yourself up with your mind daddy, right?
Both part of nature, and yes, we have the responsibility to pass value judgment and contain evil and promote good.
There's something interesting, and that's not for now, but between Eastern and Western thinking here that I'd like to unpack with you, because I do think there's a difference here between Eastern non-dualist thinking and sort of Western thinking at its core. But that's for another video, Bernardo.
Planning to even write a book about it.
Oh, seriously? Okay. You're onto something.
Another book, man, right? How many books does it take to illuminate the world about this crazy metaphysics, man, right? Oh my God, man.
Of course, again.
But one thing I am happy about is that they're actually telling me about their thinking, right? They're open about it. At least I can go here and comment on it and deconstruct it and try to give me my 2 cents about it, right? In a world where you can't do that, then everything is dying, right? So at least there's still this freedom until the crazy people has allowed the psychopaths to take over and rule everything and destroy, put everyone into another 1,000 years of dark ages, right?
Okay, thanks so much for watching. This has been a long session again. Yeah, please keep on commenting. And I'm actually thinking about sort of finding people also to help us to sort of manage the community, because as comments keep, it's just hard for us to read everything. And I just hope that...
Well, yeah, you have all my comments here, right? It's like 6 or 7 hours of my comments to you. Please, you know, knock yourself out in my comments, right? And reflect on them. Please, you know, no. It's only the very most peasant-like questions we're taking. We're not taking those who can actually argue and have their own philosophy and can actually criticize and find flaws in ours. We're not going to listen to those, right? We are going to push the government on them and shove, you know, a spear up their ass and roast them over government fire for a couple of hours, right? Until they hopefully shut up and go away, right? Because there's one worldview to explain it all. So shut up, pay attention, give me your tax money so we can keep our own money in a Essentia foundation. So the rich people don't have to pay taxes, only the poor people, right? And pay attention, and when we say you shouldn't do that, you just have to fucking obey orders or we have to kill you, right? Yes, it's hyperbolic, but it's real, potential, hyperbolic understanding of a very dark future, potentially, right? Have a nice day. See you in the next one.